That's right. We do get a lot of calls and, you know, a lot of customers that do reach out that they do know that they need an additional space for these buildings, but they just don't know what size or, you know, actually what they need. What height should I consider?
So this is really important because you need to look at your doors. You need to make sure that the height that you need for your doors, what are you getting inside your building, in and out of your building, make sure you're looking at that in comparison to the height of the overall building that you want.
And that will ensure to make sure that anything that you're pulling out of your building, pulling into your building, it's gonna fit properly. You're not gonna be skidding the top of your car or anything like driving in. I actually am going to read you the common sizes that we do have. Now, when I say the first number and the second number, it is width and height. So I have a 6 wide by 6 foot tall. I have an 8 by 7, an 8 by 8, a 9 by 7, a 9 by 8, a 10 by 8, a 10 by 10, a 10 by 12, a 12 by 10, a 12 by 12, a 12 by 14, a 14 by 10, a 14 by 12, a 14 by 14, and a 16 by 7, and I have a 16 by 8.
These are the standard sizes. You can definitely order anything different. This is just kind of what's standard in the industry. And so again, always remember what you are trying to fit inside your metal building. Typically, most vehicles don't exceed 7 feet tall, with an exception of Texas trucks. We do like our trucks a little bit taller here in the state of Texas. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So just make sure that you really just measure what you're really getting in and out of there, specifically your truck or anything of that. Another thing is RVs. You mentioned your story with the RVs. One thing to keep in mind with RVs is, do you have an AC unit? If you do, make sure you measure with that AC unit. Or even if you're going to want to work up there under your metal building on your AC unit, those are typically adding anywhere between 9 inches to an additional 12 inches, so about a foot on top of what you need for your standard RV.
Yeah, and in case that you want to do like a loft or like a 2-story kind of building, you want to add a mezzanine or anything, just make sure you have it at the minimum of 18 feet at the eaves. So on the lower section, you will have at least about 8 feet of clearance. And then even if you want a higher kind of look on the top, like in the mezzanine, you can adjust the pitch. And from there, you can get an additional height at the peak.
That's correct. So we know not all doors can fit on metal buildings, right? You can't fit a 10-foot door on a 9-foot building. So there's a couple tips that we typically give you guys and that we're gonna give you now that we recommend kind of during our planning stage with our clients to make sure that we get the correct doors that you need.
Yeah, so number one, the biggest thing is if you have your door on the gabled end of the building, we want to make sure that it's at least a minimum 1 foot smaller than the actual leg height. Now, if you do have your doors on the side of your building, on the length of the building, as we mentioned, we do recommend at least at the minimum, most of them will be 1 foot to 2 foot smaller than your actual eave height. The reason why is because of that header. We want to leave space for that. That header is there for additional support since we are cutting through some legs, and also too, it helps us mount that actual track or that door on top of the building.
That's correct. So again, that's one of the things that we kind of just mentioned to clients, we'll mention to you, is really important during the planning stage. Here at WolfSteel, we kind of always say measure twice, cut once. Yeah. We always plan really well in the office to try to execute as smoothly as possible. It is construction, so there's always something that could happen, down to the rain here in Texas. We don't know what's going on this year, but there's always something, so we try to just make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible the day of your installation.
100%. And also too, so for 2 of your buildings, they do have a center brace and also 2 corner braces. It's really important, especially if you're a customer that is going to be putting a car lift inside of your building. Make sure you look at the specifications of the car lift, how much clearance they do need, just because when you actually take in consideration you're putting a car on top of it and you're lifting it up, that car is going to add a lot of extra feet. It's not just your car lift that you're worrying about. You're worrying about that additional car that's going to be on there as well too. So make sure you are taking a look at that and taking that in consideration. Even ask your salesman how much of the clearance is that going to take away.
And you mentioned actually a really good point with that second story, that second story loft area, about increasing your pitch, and that's actually what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah. So how can a roof pitch actually give you more clearance?
So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that's the next thing that we were going to talk about. And these are one of the things, or one of the factors that you really should be considering when you're talking about height and roof things and roof pitches, things of that sort. Whether you want high ceilings or you're really going to do that loft and mezzanine that you mentioned, always take into consideration that the standard roof pitch that we do offer across the industry for the most part is a 312 pitch. You can go up to a 612 pitch. You can do that for a red iron or for our tubular buildings. It is an additional cost, but that's something that you can do. We're actually going to be adding a chart. It should be popping up on your screen right now, and it gives you the metal roof pitch and the estimated roof pitch clearance that you can achieve. Of course, there's different factors that can affect this, but it'll give you the breakdown on a 312, 412, 512, and then if you're needing anything more, just obviously make sure.
Yeah. And there's actually a calculation that you can do to determine how much you are going to have as an additional roof pitch. So if you use rather than a 312, you're gonna do like a 512 roof pitch, you wanna see how much your clearance is. There's a calculation, just make sure you ask your salesman for that. It's not complicated, but it is a little bit of a mouthful, and they'll teach you how you can actually take in consideration what you'll be looking at, and you can kind of sit down with your wife or your husband and be like, hey, this is what we would be looking at for our clearance.
Correct, and the good thing is you can always walk into our office. We are located in Fort Worth, or also just call us, and we can kind of walk you through that. Or not us, but our salesman. Our salesman can kind of help you walk you through that process and be like, okay, what is it that you're getting in there?
Yeah.
I think that's the first question that they ask you is, well, what is it that you're going to be putting inside your metal building?
Yeah.
So okay, guys. So we've learned about permitting, HOA. We've learned about the width, the length, and the height. And now we're talking a little bit about roof pitches, but there's some very, very common sizes that we have for the metal building industry. Do you want to go into those?
Yeah, sure. So what are the common dimensions for your Texas metal building? We build over 200 projects a year, and this is very common size for metal buildings that we have worked with. So I'm going to just read them off here. So we have 24 wide by 30 foot long. That is typically a 2 vehicle car garage with a moderate workspace. I will say that. Same thing with the 30 by 40. That is a 2 car garage with a bigger man cave kind of workspace. And a 40 by 60 is for larger equipment, larger man cave, more of a barn dominium kind of space size. And then we do have that 50 by 80 that is going to be for your residential commercial spaces. These sizes are based on the common requests and common builds that we have worked with here.
Correct, and that's also kind of what I see, from a marketing standpoint. This commonly what I see also with other builders that kind of are on YouTube, and we see kind of those things out there. So I think these are a pretty accurate representation across the whole industry. A 30 by 50 is actually also getting very, very popular in the industry.
That's actually very popular.
Yeah, I think it's like that hybrid between the 30 by 40 and the 40 by 60, and you're not exceeding that 30 foot width that goes into that commercial trussing. So it's really popular. There's a lot of videos that we have out there. I'm going to link some of them up above and down below for you to see.
Yeah, and then there is a lot of other things that you guys can do with these metal buildings. So that kind of brings us to the next one that we're kind of wanting to talk about, which is
different customizations can open up and free up your space.
These projects do showcase a lot of customizations that can be done to your Texas metal building. So you guys can take a look at those.
Yeah, so you can customize your metal building. That's one of the biggest things about metal buildings is they're very customizable. I think that's why we're seeing a rise in barn dominiums, because you have the ability to do so much with them, and that can maximize your space. So there's a couple ideas that we have for you to achieve that.
Yeah, a lot of it you can actually, the first thing is you can add on doors anywhere in your metal buildings. Just please understand that on our end, then we do have to make some customizations to your building, as in making it a little bit wider, maybe adding a couple of headers, but it's just to make sure that everything is open to accommodate your space and what you're going to be putting in this building.
That's correct. So another thing that you can always do to these buildings is add lean-tos and gable extensions. We actually just had a building that went live on YouTube that has that gable extension. It's kind of at the front. It looks like a front porch area. The lean-to is kind of like a lean-to off to the side. So it's a side porch area.
It's pretty though.
They are very, very nice.
Pretty.
There's different things you can add. A lot of our customers have been adding those cedar posts on there. So that's something that you can do. And that's not really breaking your bank too much, because you're not adjusting too much to your width or anything like that. So It gives you that extra space to park those trailers, boats, or things that maybe you don't want inside the building. You can also cover those. In the last video that we posted, he covered a shipping container. He has it off on the side.
Yeah.
He covered that shipping container. He has the front open for easy access, but he has everything else closed, so it doesn't have that open look. But definitely something that you can do.
It's really cool to see how what like everyone does with these buildings. It's really good because these Texas metal buildings are very versatile. So let your builder know what you want to achieve with your building. Like for example, us as builders and us as salesmen that are knowledgeable about these buildings and the construction, we can even offer you ideas and suggestions and even, you know, show you what we've seen before that can be done for your building.
That's correct. But again, always remember that we will give you recommendations, but the biggest thing that we always will be working with is going to be pricing.
That kind of goes into the next one. Pricing can influence your dimension decisions.
Correct. So we mentioned what are all these things obviously have a factor into what size you want. But the biggest thing I would say definitely, at least me as a consumer, but I know as you guys as consumers as well, that's the whole reason why we created this YouTube channel, to make sure that you're educated and that you pay attention to pricing. I think we do not shy away from those things because it is very, very important in your decision, and really just seeing what are you accommodating for and what are your needs. I would say this is kind of one of the biggest deal breakers and the factors that really influence what you do and what you don't do, whether you go bigger, whether you go smaller. We actually have a video on this, and I'm not sure, I think it's you, or it might be me. I don't know, but someone,
I think it's me.
someone is in this video, and it's on the pricing factors that really affect our tubular metal buildings. We're hoping to continue to do, it is me?
Yeah, it's you.
Okay. And we're hoping to get you guys some on the pricing factors that affect the red iron buildings, because they are very different.
Yeah.
But don't forget, you can always like play around. We have online designers on our website for you to play around with the red iron and the tubular, and we're gonna link those for you guys. And this is just to make sure that we pretty much establish a clear budget early on of what it is that you're looking to consider for your metal building.
Yeah, honestly, like what Anadela said, please do submit your red iron designs, and our estimates are free. So like whenever we give you an estimate, it's not like we're gonna charge you or anything like that. Our estimates are free, and we'll actually even give you recommendations of even ways that you can even save a little bit of money as well too. Again, we're very knowledgeable in these structures, so we do try to do the best and look out for our clients to make sure that we take care of them in their pockets.
Also keep in mind, there is a button on there that says like how soon are you looking to buy, whether that be ASAP, 1 to 3 months. I think it's 1 to 3 months, and then six months plus, because we know that, you know, planning, we're planners, as we've mentioned multiple times, we're really big planners. So we know that you guys might be looking at, hey, I'm not going to build till next year, things like that. But just keep in mind, pricing does fluctuate if you're getting pricing now versus pricing at that time.
At the end of this, guys, just before you decide getting a metal building, it's important to determine the size we need, and there's several factors that do play into that: the use of the building, the permit requirements, as we mentioned in the beginning, also to pricing that can take into factor as well too, which is understandable. Just make sure that you do take those into consideration, and if you do want to reach out to us, we can definitely help you guys out on, you know, maneuvering those obstacles that you do, you know, have in any way whatsoever.
I was rolling up my sleeves. We're reaching the end of the video.
I know, right?
We're a little bit more calm. But yeah, Sarah mentioned, always just make sure there's a lot of things to take into consideration. This one's a long one, but I hope that it fed a lot of value to you guys into different factors of what it is that you're looking at. You know, selecting a metal building, we know is not easy. We know it's not it's an investment for sure, especially because you're adding onto your property.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you should be taking into consideration, and sometimes it's making sure, the hardest part will always be making sure that it aligns with, you know, what is your budget, what is it that you're looking to spend, 100%. But also your long-term goals. So as always, guys, we reached the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. It definitely took us a long time to film. I'm not really sure, once we edit all this over, we'll see how long this one is, but we appreciate you guys sticking around. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have a lot of cool projects. I'm hoping to pop some of them up at the end of this video, and then we have a lot of giveaways coming up, so make sure to stick around.
Bye, guys.